Hey everyone, Dominic the Primetime Treasure Hunter here. In this video, I'm going to share with you an important update on eBay-Gate, which is my term for the ongoing investigation and scandal regarding federal charges of cyberstalking and witness tampering against 2 former executives of the company and 4 former employees of the company. Now, this update is based largely on an important article that came out this week, published by the Wall Street Journal. I will share the link to the article down below in the description section. And I'm also going to share my screen with you right now so you could actually see the article here for yourself. It's called "Crush This Lady: Inside eBay's Bizarre Campaign Against a Blog Critic." Now, the problem is that unless you are a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal, you can't read the entire article. You could just see the title, the subtitle, and the very beginning here. That's it. So that's one of the reasons that I created this video here, so that you could get some of the important context that is provided by the article, because this article is based on 24 interviews with former and current eBay executives and people who are familiar with the company, as well as people familiar with the government's side of the case and police officials. Now, a lot of the article goes over the charging document, and so there's a lot of it that's repetitive with stuff that you would already know. If you're coming into this brand new, go back to my prior videos in which I discussed the beginnings of this case. I go over the press conference by the U.S. attorney, and I have a separate video in which I go over the charging document in detail. And then there's a third video in which I go over proposed solutions in terms of moving forwards. So this article does provide, though, some new information. And before I go into that, I just want to comment on the irony of the Wall Street Journal being the publication that did this investigative article here. And the reason for that is one of the things that's contained within the charging document. I don't believe I actually covered this part of it when I did the video, because I was really focused on the couple, the Steiners, who are the alleged target of the harassment campaign by these folks, is in addition to the newsletter and the blog run by the couple being something that they wanted to take down, the Wall Street Journal, believe it or not, was actually another online publication that they wanted to go after and take down. In fact, according to the charging document, former CEO and president of eBay, Devin Wenig, is said to have said, F them, the Journal is next on the list. So these are the type of comments that have a lot of people concerned, because if you're going to go after or propose going after a place like the Wall Street Journal, and also, a blog within the e-commerce community, there's a lot of people who create content or who are going to be nervous. And so let me get into some of the important context that this article provides. And one of the things that it mentioned is that Devin Wenig was said in the article to be very sensitive and set off by even the smallest slights about him, about his compensation. In fact, one of the things that allegedly got him upset at the Wall Street Journal was an article that they published about his compensation only in the online version of the Wall Street Journal. It didn't even come out in the print version, but just the online version. And so, but not only that, not only upset about articles about his compensation, but also said to be very upset about even comments that were made by people in response to blog posts. So like, in the comment section, which, a lot of people who go online and read stuff, they don't even go to the comment section. Heck, most people don't even get through the actual blog article itself. And if you've ever gone into comment sections and read comment sections, I mean, you really got to dive deep sometime if you want to get to some of these comments, because there's comments, then there's responses to comments, and then you got to go to subsequent pages sometimes, depending on the blog. So, it's very interesting that stuff on that minute of a level was stuff that was getting at least some people at the top of eBay allegedly upset. Now, this is a question that has come up repeatedly to me. And just in general, I've seen people ask, why get this upset about a blog, about the e-commerce Bytes blog and newsletter? Because after all, it's not on the level, of course, of the Wall Street Journal. They've never claimed to be. They are well known within the e-commerce niche. They don't only comment on eBay, they comment on other e-commerce sites as well. But again, why get this upset about it? So let me share with you my PowerPoint slides. You know, I like to put those together. And I've got something I want to show you here, a couple slides that I think could help understand this a little bit. Not to excuse it, but just to understand, because a lot of people are seeking that. So I want you to take a look here. This is a slide that shows the market value of Amazon and eBay. Now, Amazon, if you can't read it, Amazon is in the gold or yellow color, and eBay is in the blue. And what you'll see is that on the very bottom, it shows a period of 20 years. To the far left is 2000, then right in the middle is 2010, and then all the way to the right is 2020. And what you'll see is in the year 2000 and right around there, a little bit before, a little bit after, Amazon and eBay had pretty much the same market value. In fact, if you go into the mid-2000s, you could even see that the market value of eBay was slightly higher than Amazon. Not that long ago. But you see that there's a certain point where they start to separate. And that starts to happen right around here. You see that big arrow I put there? Well, that's right around 2015. That's the midway point between 2010 and 2020. Now, why is that year important? It's important because that's the year that this guy, David Wenig, became the CEO of eBay. And one of his goals, according to the article, was to bring eBay back to its former glory days. And as you could see here, that's just not happening, with eBay's market value just remaining consistently stagnant. And then, he's got to be aware of this, that Amazon's market value is just shooting through the roof. And so that's obviously got to be a source of frustration to see that. And there's going to be media coverage about it. And one of the things that was mentioned in the Wall Street Journal article, which I actually think was the most important thing to come out of the article that was revealed, is that some within eBay believed that Amazon was actually funding the e-commerce Bytes newsletter and blog. And so that could help to understand why that newsletter would be elevated in some people's minds within eBay to a higher level, a level of more significance, if you think it's being funded by the company that's, again, just separated from you. If you see them as your, big competitor, and they're just blown away like that in terms of market value, that would be another factor that could explain why you might be more sensitive about it. And, one of the things that could have fueled this a bit, and I'm just putting two and two together here, I don't know this for a fact, but the image I'm going to show you in this next slide comes from an article, and I'll link to it down below as well if you want to see it. It comes from the UK Daily Mirror page, and this wasn't something brought up in the Wall Street Journal article in terms of the image, but as you can see here, there was an image published of Ina Steiner, who is the editor of the e-commerce Bytes website, conversing here with Jeff Bezos from Amazon. So you'd have to assume that some within eBay were aware of this at the executive level. If they had these concerns, this could have been something, again, that fueled it, that led to some suspicions. It said this came from a Facebook site somewhere. I'm not sure what Facebook page it was from, but it definitely speaks to that there was, amongst some people within the company, it seems like there was some culture of paranoia there, particularly about this company, but then again, just in response to criticism in general about the company and also about Devin Wenig. Now, the question that a lot of people have also brought up is, how widespread of an issue is this? Is this something that is just limited to the e-commerce bites site and just limited to the Wall Street Journal? Some thoughts they had about that, which, by the way, did say in the article that they actually went through a brainstorming session to come up with some ideas or plans on what to do against the Wall Street Journal, but they never actually carried out the, whatever they were thinking of possibly doing in these brainstorming sessions. So it never actually happened. But just the fact that it was something that was thought of and considered is sort of, mind-boggling if you think about it. But again, the question has come up as to how widespread is this? Because one of the things someone mentioned to me, I don't remember if it was in my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, or if it was here within the YouTube channel comments on the prior videos, is someone said, you don't go from zero to pig masks. And pig mask is a reference to the bloody pig mask you see here in the picture, which was one of the items that was allegedly sent to the Steiners' home by someone who was charged, who used to work within eBay. And it's an interesting comment because, I've spoken to this as well, that, it seems like there was a culture, like this did not occur within a vacuum, not necessarily a culture in the entire company. We don't want to tarnish everybody, of course, but amongst a subset. Now, was it just limited to this, to the 6 people who are in the, who are named in the documents? That remains to be seen. As I've said, this is an ongoing investigation, and there could be additional charges that come out in the case. But this is something we want to know, which is why articles like this are important. So something you should know that's mentioned in the article is that the U.S. Attorney's Office, according to someone who is familiar with the investigation, is actively investigating whether or not eBay targeted any other critics with a harassment campaign at all. So it does also talk about, within the article, 2 resellers who have YouTube channels who believe that they were targeted by eBay. The first who was mentioned is Casey, the Rockstar Flipper. In the article, Casey is said to have said that in late 2018 that he was pressured to remove a video perceived as negative about eBay, and that the company did not like the tone. The tone. I'm going to just say my own little comment here. If we have to worry about the tone of how we're saying things about eBay, we've got a big problem on our hands, because, as I've said previously, we have to, for our audience, we have to be transparent, and we have to be able to provide balance to our audience. We cannot be worried that, looking behind us all the time are people within eBay who are monitoring every word we say and the tone of what we say. But anyway, Casey says in the article that he was threatened with a lawsuit if he did not remove the video, which was, by the way, something that he removed, and that he told, that he was told by somebody within eBay that there was a security team that was watching all of his videos all the time, and that he was that he still felt scared by what was going on. And it's interesting because that is actually what he says he was told is actually consistent with something in the charging document. If you remember, one of the things that I went over was that there was somebody who was charged, who was assigned the task of monitoring the e-commerce Bytes website and forwarding any articles that were concerning regarding eBay, comments regarding eBay, to people higher up in the company who were also charged. So it's consistent, at least. I can't, say with any kind of factual degree, because this has not been something that's actually come out in any kind of, charging document or indictment. But at least what is said there is consistent with something that is in an existing charging document. Now, there's also another YouTuber, Danny Ackerman, Danni, who goes by the name The Niche Lady, who said in the article that she felt that eBay stopped inviting her to events after she made YouTube videos that were critical of policy changes that affected sellers. So that's obviously all very concerning, and we're going to need to await more information that comes out. Like I said, it's an ongoing investigation, and I'd really prefer to wait until we have any additional potential information that comes out from the U.S. Attorney's office, before we could say we know much more about what actually happened here regarding these cases and any others that might come up that we don't know about yet. But it's definitely a concerning thing. Now, I should mention that with regards to this supposed connection that eBay, or some people within eBay, thought that the e-commerce bytes site had with Amazon, that there was no connection that was actually found by eBay. And Amazon also, through a spokesman, denied that they ever funded the e-commerce bytes site. So that's just important to make sure we get that out there. Now, another thing that I want to pass on to you is some context about, and actually, let me just stay on this screen. It makes sense to just stay on the Wall Street Journal screen for this one. In terms of why it would have been that security wound up getting involved at all in the case. Because you remember that one of the things that, if you saw my live show interview that I did recently with Greg Schneider, he's a global security expert. And one of the things that he said was the fatal flaw of how things went down within the structure of eBay in this case is that they involved security in terms of managing what happened with how they were going to approach the Steiners, and that this really should have stayed within the communications department. According to the allegations, the former head of communications reached out to people who were in charge of security and intelligence divisions and got them involved with handling things, whereas that was really, according to the security expert, the wrong way to really go about this, because this did not involve the protection of physical assets, regarding, any of the comments, for example, that were made about compensation. Now, it does mention, though, in the article that Devin Wenig's wife was not only upset about some, comments that were made about her husband. One of the comments said, that he was a con artist and a thief, and she was upset about that and upset about the tone of the articles. But it also mentioned that there was some unknown person that arrived at the Wenig's house. Now, that's really all it says. It doesn't say what this unknown person said. It doesn't say if this unknown person said anything criticizing, Devin Wenig or eBay or anything like that. It just says an unknown person showed up at the house. So without more detail on that, it's hard to say more, but it definitely indicates that there was some concern on their part that there's all these critical comments that are being made, and now some unknown person shows up at the house. They're worried about it, so they contacted security about that, and also contacted security because Devin Wenig and his family were about to go over to Italy, and there was a comment that was said to have been made in one of the blogs that said that he could look forward to a crash landing regarding his Italy trip. And so that definitely sounds like a threat of violence. And it says in the article that Devin Wenig's wife was concerned about the safety of her and her family, which I don't blame her for that. You know, we've got to be balanced with this, and those types of comments, there's no place for that type of stuff on either side. Nobody should be making any statements that even suggest that someone is going to have some violent act taken against them because you're upset about their policy, or you're upset about how they criticize your company. That's just taking it one level way too far. All the other stuff that allegedly happened in this place is taking it too far. You shouldn't be showing up at people's houses if that's what this was related to. You know, all of that type of stuff is out of line. So, you know, anyone doing anything like that, you know, needs to cool it for sure. But at the same time, that still does not excuse the types of things that happened in this case, because anything like that, that should be reported to the authorities, and the authorities should handle that. But in terms of how to, you know, address anything that has to do with, you know, an e-commerce website and a blog where you're upset about some of the comments, that has to be dealt with within the communications division of the company, it seems, not to bring in security, you know, and intelligence sources. But now let me get to another point that I think is very important. And this is not something from the actual Wall Street Journal article, although I'm going to actually bring in a quote from, let me show you the article here if you want to see it. It's called "Cyberstalking Scandal Sends Shockwaves Through eBay's Community of Buyers and Sellers." It comes from San Jose Inside, which is right by where eBay is. And by the way, just to show you the other article I was referring to where the picture came from, if it shows up, this is the Daily Mail article right here. But there's a quote I want to pull out of this article that just came out that's important, and it's about the current CEO. I've been talking a lot about the prior CEO, but let's talk a little bit about the current CEO. And I've mentioned this previously, but I'm going to mention again because I was in prior videos, you know, cutting a little bit of slack, saying, all right, let's let him get his hands around this. Although presumably he knew that this was coming out. This is Jamie Iannone, the current CEO of the company. You know, you would presume he was briefed about this. He knew this was coming out. So really, there should have been a statement already ready from the CEO. But clearly, a decision was made to not put him front and center to handle this. Let me, instead of giving you my words about this, because I previously have, let me just tell you and show you what it says in this article from the San Jose website. It says, no word from CEO Jamie Iannone in his 6th week on the job. No emails to sellers or customers. Nothing for the 34,000 members of stay-at-home moms selling on eBay, the 350 members of Bay Area eBay sellers, or the 125 million active buyers in the US. But there is plenty of social media chatter among eBay sellers. Yes, there is. That's true. Now, it also says the only company statement to sellers, the heart of the eBay business model, came in the form of an apology by a senior vice president, and that's a reference to Jordan Sweetnam, on an announcements page for eBay sellers in the company website, which he reposted to his personal Facebook page and to a private eBay sellers Facebook group that has 47,000 followers. The VP, Jordan Sweetnam, added a follow-up post 2 days later. And that's all true. So as I've said previously, it's good that at least somebody within the company at the executive level is addressing this. But as I and many others have also mentioned, it is a major problem that we in the selling community and in the creator community have not heard from the CEO, precisely because of all of the problems that are alleged to have occurred with the prior CEO. Now, I will emphasize again, as I have in prior videos, that the prior CEO is not alleged to have known about the specifics of the plot, okay? But he is alleged to have made these general statements about taking her down that set a lot of these things into motion. That's at least what the allegations are. So because of that, it is very important for sellers and for creators to hear that the new CEO doesn't think like that. And I do not know what is so hard to understand about that from eBay's side. Now, I keep hearing questions about why the new CEO has not shown up and has not talked about this, has not mentioned this, has not issued a bulletin, nothing. I mean, it's kind of amazing if you think about it. Like, no one could even come up with a letter that he could sign that was written by somebody else, and just to pretend to put something out there to address it. Like, nothing at all. Not a 2-minute statement that goes on the website. I mean, nothing. So what are the reasons for this? Why? Well, it's likely that there's somebody, I don't know this for a fact, I'm hypothesizing, these are all opinions and theories. It is likely that there's someone from PR, you would imagine they have some kind of crisis management person there, who is advising that he not say anything about this right now. And even if that's not the case, if that's not what's going on, it's definitely clear to me that the task of addressing this to sellers is to give the task to Jordan Sweetnam. Now, again, I don't have anything against Jordan Sweetnam. He seems like a nice guy. I've had a couple email interactions with him, and he's saying much of the right things when he's commenting about this. He's talking about it being embarrassing and wanting to move forwards and wanting to rebuild trust with sellers. But my point to Jordan and to others within eBay is that you cannot rebuild trust with sellers if you don't have the CEO addressing this problem with us. And the longer it goes, as I've said previously, the worse it gets. We're now on 10 days with no comment. And it was made a point by Jordan that one of the reasons we're not hearing from him is that he has other things that he's doing right now. He's 6 weeks on the job, and he has other things that he's got to focus on, and his attention is better focused there. Sorry, that's one of the things that Jordan has said that I have to disagree with very strongly, because it sends the message that this issue is not important enough. If there's other issues that he's been dealing with for 6 weeks, and presumably, again, knowing that this was going to come down the pike, there should have been something readied to be able to say, or some kind of statement that should have been issued. So all these other things that he is doing, again, make it look like those other things are more important than this particular issue. So there's that. Okay, that's definitely a concern. But the other thing that's concerning, and this is my last slide, and I think this is, again, is my opinion, but I think this next slide that I'm going to show you is really the main reason why we have not heard anything from the new CEO. And this has to do with eBay's current stock portfolio here, as you can see here. So this is the market summary for how eBay stock has done over the past year. And as you can see, it has generally increased, and it's been doing pretty well as of late. It's almost at $50 a share, and it's been up a little bit recently, and it hasn't gone down in any appreciable way, in any significant way, since the scandal hit. Which is part of my point here, is that how much do you want to bet that if the eBay stock had tanked after this news of the scandal came out and went down to where it was, let's say, over here when it's at this low point, that we would have heard something from the CEO, and very, very fast? Personally, I feel very comfortable guaranteeing that we would have heard something along those lines. We would have heard some type of comment. And this is why I say that trust cannot be rebuilt unless we at least start hearing something from the CEO. Because when we see this type of stuff as sellers, what we think of as a community is that people higher up within eBay, including the current CEO, see the shareholders, so the people who own the stock, as more important than the stakeholders. Stakeholders being you and I as sellers, and people who buy. Now, of course, you need buyers, but there are no buyers and there are no shareholders without sellers. So at the very least, there needs to be communicated by actions, not just words, from within eBay's executive level And it starts with the CEO. It starts with the person who's the leader, by making sure it is clear that we are seen as just as important as shareholders in the company, if not even more important than shareholders within the company, because of what I just said. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's an ongoing case. I will continue to provide updates. If you have any comments, things that you would like to say, share your perspective, feel free to do that down below in the comment section. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to share that stuff as well. Please, if you think that this was helpful or interesting to go over, if you learned some new stuff, got new perspective on this, I want to share it with other people, feel free to do that as well. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Make sure also that you come by, because I'm doing updates all the time in terms of just general reselling news, and of course, stuff related to this story in my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, and follow me over on Instagram. That's @prime_time_treasure. I hope you enjoyed the video, everyone, and I'll see you back at the next one. Take care.